Proof of parallel universes exposed. There's a recent article in ScienceAlert.com that says a cosmologist has apparently found possible signs of a parallel universe. It says the idea of a multitude of parallel universes existing alongside our own is not new, but trying to find evidence of this phenomenon is proving about as tricky as you might expect. But one cosmologist thinks he might have found evidence of a parallel universe brushing against our own as far back at the beginning of time. To appreciate what Rangaram Chari from the California Institute of Technology has found, it's important to first understand how our own universe came into being. And again, for listeners of this is just what this article says. I don't necessarily subscribe to this. This is just what science says. So you take it or leave it. But it says for hundreds of thousands of years after the Big Bang, the particles that existed were too hot and energetic to form into atoms. The point at which this started happening, some 300,000 years ago after the Big Bang, is known as recombination. It also marks the time when cosmic background radiation started spreading through the universe, a signal scientists use to look back into time and formulate their theories. What Chari has spotted is a bump or a bruise in this cosmic background radiation, and that could mean a collision with a parallel universe. Cosmologists believe that the bubbles of separate universes could be colliding with each other, depositing some material along the way, just like normal soap bubbles bumping into each other would. So, can we start plotting a course to this brand new universe right away? Well, not exactly. Interpreting cosmic background radiation, or CMB signals, is cosmic microwave cosmic background radiation, CMB. All right, I think the M is for microwave. Sorry about that. Getting a little off track on this this thing here. All right. The article says it's CMB, so we're just going to call it CMB. So interpreting CMB signals is notoriously difficult, and Chari himself believes there's a 30% chance that what he's found is just background noise and not a telltale sign of a neighboring universe at all. It could also be a large spot of space dust. I suspect that it would be worth looking into alternate possibilities, David Spergel from Princeton University told Joshua Sokol at New Scientist. The dust properties are more complicated than we have been assuming, and I think that this is a more plausible explanation. And as a quick side note, it's kind of interesting that the idea of a large collection of dust was that was also the explanation or the alternate explanation given to the supposed Dyson sphere that was reported or claimed that it might be a Dyson sphere a few months ago, light years away. So this cosmic dust, maybe it's showing all sorts of anomalous things, or maybe there's something deeper to it. Anyway, so the article says Joseph Silk of Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, is even more pessimistic, calling claims of an alternate universe completely implausible, adds Sokol. While he thinks the paper is a good analysis of anomalies in Planck data, Silk also believes something is getting in the way. My view is that they are almost certainly due to foregrounds. The data used by Chari was taken from the European Space Agency's powerful Planck telescope. By subtracting CMB models from Planck's picture of the universe, he discovered patches of signals some 4,500 times brighter than they should have been, based on the number of protons and electrons scientists believe existed in the early universe. At this stage, it's just a hypothesis, and looking billions of years back into the past isn't at all straightforward, but progress is still being made all the time. Chari told Jennifer Owlett at Gizmodo that he hopes to have more comprehensive results within a couple of years, though his ideas might not be proved one way or the other until the next generation of space scanning technology comes online, estimated at 15 to 20 years. Unusual claims like evidence for alternate universes require a very high burden of proof, he writes in his report published online at arxiv.org. Searching for these alternate universes is a challenge. As far as challenges go, Chari sure has a big one on his hands. All right, so what do you guys think about this? Parallel universes, it's a big topic. Do they exist? Is it biblically possible for them to exist? What does religion have to say, if anything, about the possibility? This is something that I wrote about briefly. Well, I dedicated a chapter to it in my book Quantum Creation, which can be found at ministudyministry.com, also Amazon, or you can just look at the links in the description below and find it. But that's something that I wrote about. Are parallel universes possible scientifically and within and biblically? And I think the answer is yes, it's possible, but that doesn't mean that it's probable. Um, when there's something like this that happens and the other answer could be space dust, even if it's unlikely that that much dust would collect in one area, because that's something that they said about the Dyson sphere as well, that well, it could be a Dyson sphere because it's unlikely that that amount of dust would collect in one area like that in space. Well, what's more likely? I mean, alternate universes, parallel universes, higher dimensions, or space dust? So, I mean, for to convince me, I would need like a lot more evidence, just than that. But biblically speaking, there's really nothing that I've been able to find that would prohibit or completely nullify the idea that parallel universes could exist. And the conversation always seems to go back to, well, how does that match up with salvation, and how does that involve our free will? Are there versions of myself that never got saved and they're going to hell? Well, in the most extreme model of parallel universes and this is the one that's usually put out there because it's the most extreme one, it's the most sensational one, that says, for every choice another universe is born, and there's an infinite number of universes out there, and everyone's a little bit different. Some are vastly different, like that show Sliders back in the 90s, kind of like that. Even in that most extreme case, we're only talking about biology here. We're only talking about physical matter here. That other version of you would still have a different soul. The soul, or the spirit. There's nothing that says that would be the same. And I mean, that would be evidenced by just that person makes different choices than you, even if it's slightly. It's still an individual. It's not you. So that to me would be like saying, well, my neighbor didn't accept Christ, and he's going to hell. Does that mean I'm going to hell too? No, of course not. It's nonsensical. So that's that. It has nothing to do with free will. You still have your own free will. Again, this would be a separate person altogether. I mean, this person would look like you, and biologically and physically, it would be identical, but that person would still have, it wouldn't have the same soul as you, or the same consciousness, or what makes you would be different. But again, that's in the most sensational, like, way far out there version. There's other models of parallel universes, and one that I like is that it says that parallel dimensions or universes, or however you want to look at it, don't have to be inhabited. We would actually be a part of what we might call the multiverse, or something along those lines. And that really gets more into higher dimensions, and that's why when scientists talk about parallel universes, you got to be careful what exactly they're talking about, because there's a couple different definitions of that term. So this version would be talking about higher dimensions, spatial dimensions, specifically. But basically, if you think of a sheet of paper, within a stack of paper. That sheet of paper would be a universe, and then there would be other parallel universes, but all of them together would make up the higher dimensional or extra dimensional stack of paper. If we think of a sheet of paper as two-dimensional, and then you stack them up, and it creates a three-dimensional structure. It would sort of be like that. So you have three-dimensional universes, in a sense, stacked together. But again, this is in two different directions. That's not up, down, left, right, front, back. It's two separate directions. That we can't perceive. But in a sense, they would be stacked up to create a higher dimensional multiverse. What we might call that. Um, Now, the exciting thing about that is there's nothing to say that those other universes would have to be inhabited by separate beings or anything. In fact, that you could even take that, and I'm not saying that we should do that just as a thought exercise. You could even take that as far as to say all of physical matter is just a subset or a three-dimensional slice of a larger extra-dimensional reality. So if you look at a tree outside, there might actually be more to that tree than what we can see or touch or feel or perceive in any way. Same could go for planets and moons and stars and all the entire universe could just be one sheet of paper. So interesting to think about. There might be biblical evidence for that. This whole thing, I go into great detail in my book, Quantum Creation, and I write it in a way that's I'm probably not explaining it very well here. I believe I'm a better writer than speaker by far, but I did my best to explain it in a way that anybody can understand. So you don't have to be intimidated by this stuff. I mean, I can't really wrap my head around a lot of this stuff either. I don't think any of us truly can because it deals with things outside of our perception. But we can at least get a pretty good handle on the basics. So that's what quantum creation is all about. It deals with these tough theological questions and also gets into a lot of the science in a way that anybody and I've said before in other interviews and stuff. I've had people in their 70s and 80s write me and say that they've understood the book just fine and they enjoyed it and were able to get a lot out of it. And I've had people as young as 14 or 15 write me and say the same thing. So I have yet to have anybody say that the book was too confusing or that they couldn't understand what I was trying to say or anything like that. So hopefully that helps. Make you not feel intimidated. I'm not like a scientist or anything like that. So. And on I ramble. I should probably conclude here. So I am curious to know what you think about this whole idea of parallel universes, extra dimensions. Is it biblical? Am I just way out in left field? What do you guys think? I'm curious to know. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and share this video with your friends. See what they think, family. It's a good conversation starter at least. And subscribe. But yeah, comment. All right. Thank you for watching. As always, take care and God bless.